How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a kick-ass week. If you are into chasing the craft of home distillation, being able to assess your own products and decide where to improve is pretty important. Today we're talking about 6 ways to improve your self-assessment of your own product. Welcome Distiller everyone, I'm Jesse and this is the channel all about chasing the craft of home distillation and making it a legitimate hobby. So if that's your jam, if that's what you're into, have a think about subscribing down below and you won't miss anything. In a hobby like this, guys, it is really important to be able to assess your own product, assess your own processes, decide where you're lacking and how to improve if your goal is to really chase the craft and get progressively better. I feel like professionally and in other hobbies I'm actually pretty good at this, but I have found myself failing to apply those same sort of techniques or processes to distilling itself, which made me think it's probably worth noting that, admitting it, and also having a talk to you guys about how we can do that better. I'm doing something a little bit different this week and I'm going to split the video into 2, so there'll be another video coming out in a couple of days. Keep an eye out for it. Number 1 is to try and find a way to be honest with yourself and honest with your own products. Now, I know that sounds easy and it sounds simple, but sometimes it can be really hard. You know how much effort and time and blood, sweat and tears you've put into something, and your brain tends to weight that as being a little bit better than perhaps it is, and leading yourself to sort of decide that what you're drinking is maybe a little bit better than it is. Some people, on the other hand, go the other way. They are super critical of anything they make, and they just can't admit that something that they've done is actually kind of nice. All they can do is see the flaws. So number 1 is about trying to recognize where you're at with your own self and how you're judging your own spirits, and try and at least be honest and open to the fact that that's going on and find a way to try and counteract that. It's much easier said than done, trust me. The reason I put this at number 1 is I think the rest of these things actually kind of help with number 1 as well. Number 2 is to set yourself achievable goals. And what I mean by achievable goals are goals that are actually attainable in the short, mid, or long term. You don't want to be going out and setting goals that are just completely unrealistic or things that are, where you want to be at in 5 years' time or something like that. Set yourself something that you can work towards and then decide whether or not you've achieved it. And I know it sounds cheesy, guys. It really does sound cheesy. But if you write that stuff down, write it down, you've got accountability to yourself and you're more likely to actually go after those goals and try and cross them off a list. So number 3 is to go back and check whether or not you've actually achieved those goals. Seems kind of obvious, right? But it's so easy to forget to do it. When you check the goals, once again, try and be honest with yourself and then go back and set more goals for the future as well. This is really closely related to number 4. Make sure you're happy to put yourself in situations where you're very likely to succeed, but also situations where you're really likely to fail. That might seem kind of strange to some people, but certain people have certain tendencies to either go after one or the other. They tend to be always safe. They always do things that they're 99.9% sure they're going to be able to achieve. In which case, if you're doing that, you've really got no idea what the upper limit of your skill set or your product is. You just don't know. How can you know if you don't try it? Conversely to that, if you're someone that is always setting yourself these crazy standards and going after things where you're almost certainly going to at least fail a little bit, you're never really sure what you're actually capable of because you're always falling slightly short of what your expectations are. So make sure you pull it back a little bit as well and give yourself a chance to really succeed on those goals too. Number 5 is to try and incorporate the use of something that is a constant to assess yourself against. The reason I say this is when you're learning a new hobby, a new craft, anything like that, as you get better, your expectations grow as well. So it can be pretty hard to put an idea into your head of what something is when it is good, for example. A wee analogy, if you'll indulge me, is the idea of tuning an instrument. There are freaks out there, like crazy savants, that can just carry a middle C around in their head. They can hear something and say, that's out of tune, this is what it should sound like instead. Most of us can't do that. So we need something, a tuning fork, if you're old school, or an app on your phone. So you can compare the pitch of your instrument compared to something that's a standard over time, and know that every time you recalibrate, you're recalibrating to the same thing. Does that make sense? So coming back to what we're doing and making craft spirits, that might be a commercial product. If you're making neutral, perhaps you say Grey Goose is my standard, and that's what I'm always going to measure myself against over time. Because I sure as hell know when I first started making stuff, Grey Goose was amazing. I thought that was great. I thought if I could make something even close to that product, I would be super happy. Things change. Last of all, we have number 6. Number 6 is to calibrate your own assessment. And what I mean by that is to find a way to use something external to you and your little bubble to assess the way that you assess yourself. Make sense? So for most hobbies, for most crafts, the best way to do that is to find someone that absolutely kicks ass at what you're trying to do, get them to assess whatever it is that you just made or whatever you just did, and then compare your assessment of that same thing to their assessment of that same thing. Obviously, there are some problems around that when it comes to home distilling, because for most of us, even here in New Zealand where it's legal, I cannot give this away. I can't sell it, I can't give it away either. So honestly guys, depending on your situation, you might need to get a little bit creative about this. So perhaps you go and find, once again, a commercial example of something that you think is kind of similar to what you're making. Assess that commercial example yourself and then give it to someone else to assess. That's one way of doing it. I'm sure you'll find others. If you've got any ideas on this, guys, please put them down in the comments, because I'd love to hear what you have to say. So in New Zealand, it looks like there may be a slight loophole for this. While I'm not allowed to give this away, I am allowed to take a small sample, submit it to an expert for the sole purpose of assessing it and deciding basically whether or not it is as it should be. Now guys, if you're in New Zealand, please don't take this as advice that is what you can do. You probably want to look into it yourself as well. So in a couple of days time, guys, I'm going to put another video up, which is going to be me putting together a little assessment pack of some of my product to send off to a couple of guys that, in my opinion, seem to really know the industry of whiskey. I'm guessing that there's some of you out there that already know who I'm talking about, and that of course is Daniel and Rex from the Whiskey Vault, the Whiskey Biscuit, and the Whiskey Tribe. If you have no idea who I'm talking about, I would totally suggest you check out my next video and I'll explain that a whole lot more to you then. So as soon as that video is live, there'll be a link down below this video for that video and vice versa. Alright team, I really hope that you found that useful. So what I want you to do, guys, is drop a comment down below and let me know, and let the rest of the community know what you want to be working on. Let us know what your short-term goals are, so basically what you want to be able to accomplish in about 2 months' time. For me, those goals are get my reflux still back up and running, iron those kinks out, and finally run the birdwatchers. Before I go, I need to say a huge thank you to all the Patreons. Thank you so much for contributing to the channel, guys. If it wasn't for you, this would not be happening. Just to let you know, guys, I will be getting those proper thank you cards sorted for the videos, and that will happen, I hope, within the next fortnight. So thanks for watching the video, guys. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. That really helps me out. If you really liked it, make sure to subscribe down below. And I'll catch you guys next time when I will be getting an assessment pack ready to post for the guys at the Whiskey Vault. See ya!